Okay, I have an example that you guys can use for your final drawing. Your final figure drawing can be this demo, or you can find a pose on your own. My suggestion is to go line of action. It's a modeling application that you can get for free on your computer, and you can choose any type of model. You can choose male, female, go ahead and choose nude. Um, and what I do for doing longer poses is get a screenshot of the pose you like. So I actually just fast forward through the poses until I find one that I really like. I saved a couple along the way, and this is the one that I chose. Yeah, I thought it would be nice for you guys to work from a male model. So what we'll do is I'm gonna show you a two-layer drawing I did. I started a drawing that I worked a little bit on, and then what I did is did a tracing paper start. So when I start this, you'll see what I mean, so that you can kind of see how I'm working from gesture to volumes and then slowly building up to value. Okay, so this is the image I'm working from. You can take a screenshot of this if you want to work from this as well, if you want to have the actual image next to you as you're working. Okay, so let's get rid of that. All right, so here's the image that we'll be working from. Okay. So here I'm starting to build up those volumes. So initially it's just a gesture drawing where I'm moving through and connecting the body. So do that. Make sure that you're working through the volumes, looking for the chest cavity, the pelvis. The spine is really important on this one. And for me, this spine hits the bottom of the rib cage. I always do this move where I draw through the chin and then to the back of the head. This motion right here is a really great connector. It connects the head to the rib cage to the pelvis all in one move. And you'll see that you're going to see these contrapposto moves, these S curves that connect. And then the same from the arm, I go from the top to the bottom, and that bottom rolls all the way through the shoulder. So if you can go from the front to the back of the pose, you're going to have a lot of success, I think. So I'm going to let it go a little further. Once again, I really like working in blue pencil initially. I can be kind of messy. I can be gestural because I'm going to bury it in darker values. I really like this method. Plus, I really enjoy seeing your structures underneath. If you do it in a blue pencil, I'll be able to see those initial gesture drawings and where you shift it around, where the leg might have moved or the rib cage shifts. Then I start moving to usually a 2B. This is like a 2B pencil. And one of the things that I want you guys to notice is that please use this demo, but refer back to the image, because when you work from an image to an image, you're going to have some degradation of information. Like you are unaware of how I'm getting these structures, so make sure you have that image next to you at all times. So some of the things I'm going to show you that might help you is whenever you're working on an edge, a shadow or a highlight, those correspond mostly to the skeletal system, which you guys are really familiar with now, and sometimes the muscular system. But whenever I'm drawing, I always understand what I'm on. So try to be aware of what body part you're on and why you're putting that value where you're putting it. So here was a ball joint, and so I was very aware of making this a ball joint. That ball joint connected through a ligament through the shoulder, and that's why I was making that connection. There was another sort of muscular shape here, so I know where these shapes begin and end. You can have a skeleton system next to you, and you can have a muscular system next to you. And those things will really help you because when you're copying a value blind, you guys sometimes don't understand why this value is where it is. Okay, whereas I'm hitting the back of the scapula and the beginning of the rib cage. I'm always aware of the body part that I'm on, and I understand where one starts and one ends. I'm very rarely blindly putting a value down without understanding what part of the body I'm working on, okay? Notice that when you guys hit strong edges, whether they are dark edges or light edges, let me get this out here. Whether they're dark or light edges, they typically are hitting the edge of a body part ending. So here's that upper arm ending. Here's the chin ending, right? Or it's a shift in anatomy. So here we're moving from scapula to shoulder blade to the ball joint. The darks typically, as you guys understand from observational drawing, are the core shadows, and the core shadows are very rarely on the edge of the figure. So even though this is dark, the darkest dark is actually here and here. It's at the highest point of the body, and it's also raking across, usually it's raking across bone structure. It's hitting the scapula, it's hitting the spine, or it's hitting like a mandible, you know, your jawbone right here. Those are the places where you're going to have those hard edges. One thing I want you guys to kind of work on is working on soft to hard edges. So there I just made that shift in the tracing paper beginning to the final drawing. Now this is what I mean by hard to soft edges. Here we have like a hard, high contrast situation, but if I had done this in that same high contrast situation, everything's gonna look, it's gonna feel like a stained glass almost, like there's just too much edge everywhere, and you lose volume. So make sure you understand if you're in a high contrast situation or if you're in a low contrast situation. And sometimes the contrast is not a dark edge, it's a white line. So here, the contrast didn't come from putting darks down, the contrast actually came from the white. Here, the contrast came from the dark. Sometimes when it's really high, those should be together, but that should not happen everywhere. If you're doing that everywhere, that high contrast is making the figure feel fractured, okay? It's losing its volume. Here's a good example of a low contrast with a white edge high, okay? Here's a low contrast dark to dark. Same here, this is not extremely high, and if you draw this very high, it's gonna feel flat. If everything is black and white, everything looks flat. So in this drawing, I really, really want you guys to be sensitive to hard edge versus soft edge and kind of ask yourself, where am I in this body? Is this a soft edge value shift or a hard edge? Once again, I think it's really smart to go between lights and darks. You cannot just lay the darks and then just move to the lights and be done. I always incorporate. If I do a series of whites, I'll go back in with my darks and blend them. If I do darks, then I'll bring my whites back over that and blend them so that most of my edges are soft. You should only have a couple really hard edges. Okay, these are all soft. This is soft. This is like, you know, medium. This is pretty soft. So I'm going back and forth between just my lights and my darks. I also think that some of you guys, if you're working small like I am, you need to have a really sharp pencil. So either get a nice 8B or ebony really sharp, or like use a mechanical pencil at the end, because that edge will be able to give you that kind of dark line that you're really looking for. And don't be afraid at the end to get a micron out and just kind of edge out some of this, okay? With my Conti, I tend not to blend a lot. I use my pencil for blending. So if I've gone too far here, I'll get an H out, an H pencil, and blend these edges. Okay, I'm gonna let this go a little. So at the very end, I'm starting to really work towards higher and higher contrast. So I'll let it play all the way through. Okay. There. Okay. So that's the final one. That's from the image I showed you, but you guys can do any image you want. You don't have to use the one I did. But I am looking for the most detail that you can get. I want real sense of core highlight moving to core shadow, and a real sensitivity to hard edge versus soft edge, okay? I think that'll be it. Good luck, you guys.